There we go. So welcome to the Planning and Licensing Committee of the 22nd of January. Thank you, Louise, for taking over when Douglas has Duncan has the temerity to go on holiday. And thank you, Steve, for coming in and substituting when we had a vacancy. So do we have any apologies?
We have apologies from Councillor Larson and Councillor Brooke.
Right. And right. Which is our other permanent members. Right, and I'm assuming that nobody has any declarations of interest, but do declare them when we get there. Meeting management issues, we have one member of the public here, so we will do what we normally do, which is bring public questions forward and then discuss that straight away so he can get out quickly. I'll just do the minutes. So we have the minutes of the 15th of January. I'm sure you've all read them. Anybody got any comments? I propose from the chair. Second, share of hands. Are you going to abstain? Yeah. One abstention. Right. This is matters arising. None. Right. We're going straight on to public. I don't know if you've been here before. Is it switched on so that he can talk?
I recognise.
And this is for application 2, I understand. What would you like to tell us?
Good evening, thank you for your time. My name is Paul Bateman, Influence Planning. I'm the Principal Consultant and Managing Director, and I'm representing the applicant at the Lusty Glaze Beach application for a Certificate of Existing Lawful Use. I fully appreciate the chairperson will be aware that the difference between a Certificate of Lawfulness and a planning application. But for those that aren't sure, the certificate only deals with matters of fact and law. Has something occurred sufficiently for a sufficient amount of time to be immune from enforcement action, or in part of this case, never liable for it, and thus lawful through that immunity. So in this particular case, there's 2 building operations, construction of one building termed the cottage and one termed the chalet, which have both been in use as dwelling houses since they were substantially complete. The building operations require a period of 4 years to gain immunity from enforcement action due to the breach commencing prior to the enactment of the Levelling Up Act last year. And the use as dwelling houses is actually 10 years because there was no change in use of the building to a dwelling house. They were always used for that purpose. The first building, the cottage, was built in the 1930s. This has been subsequently to the application and statutory declaration confirmed, and collaborated by a previous owner that I have no contact with in the public consultation. And the second building was built in the 1980s, and that is also corroborated by the previous owner. The significant dates are the 10-year period prior to the making of the certificate application. In that time, there's been no change to the structures of the building or their layout. They both have had all the facilities for normal day-to-day existence, which the High Court holds makes them dwellings, and they've been used continuously through holiday letting and winter let residentially for the entirety of that requisite period. So they're immune from enforcement action in accordance with section 171B1 of the Town and Country Plan Act 1990 for the construction, and section 171B3 for the use as dwelling houses. Section 192 determines that they are lawful due to that immunity. Thank you.
Could you just shove up the second one of the photographs I took, which actually shows the 2 buildings? Are they used for, are you asking for residential rather than holiday accommodation? Although I imagine they're usually used for holiday.
The certificate is for C3 planning use. Now, we would probably agree that there should be a difference in use classes between holiday and second homes and residential houses. And indeed, there needs to be if a primary residence condition is ever going to work, because you need to protect the existing housing stock. So that's something that I'm actually liaising with government on at the moment. But at the moment, both holiday letting buildings that are designed as dwelling houses and have all the facilities for day-to-day existence are within the C3 dwelling house use, and so are residential dwellings. And there's no development where there's changes between the two in the same use class. So
cases where you have a sort of limited to holiday use, but that's not the case here. It could be anybody living there. And secondly, I noticed that on the papers there's a sort of what they call an unsigned affidavit. Is that the right word? By Tracy. Is she actually going to sign it at some stage?
the hard copy, which is dated differently because she was out of the county at the time, she agreed the text, but didn't get the opportunity to swear in front of her solicitor, is now with the case officer. So that sworn version has been supplied, but that evidence has been corroborated by the previous owner in the public comments.
D.
Yeah, I mean, having used Lusty Grange continuously for a period of at least 12 or 13 years, you know, I struggle to see even if we had some kind of objection to this, what that, you know, on a private beach, its view from the public realm is exceptionally limited. Everybody kind of accepts it's there anyway, so I propose we support it.
We haven't gone into debate
Okay.
yet, but you have anybody got any questions? Because we will immediately then go into debate. Everybody happy? Right. What I'm proposing is that we close public questions and we move this application up to the straightaway on the agenda. And at this point, you can't join in. Occasionally, we sort of ask the air and it comes back from the ether somehow. So, show of hands to do that. Let's carry on, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah, so I propose we support the application for the certificate of lawfulness. There's, you know, it'll affect no change at all in the use of the property or the public impact of the property, and will just regularise the situation for the applicant.
Two other photographs to do with it. To the agenda, active consultations. We've got the highway works where no right turn coming out of the lane thing and all this. Funnily enough, we actually asked for that when we were doing the TRA debate for the planning thing. We never thought we got it, and within a few months, obviously our idea we've got a few, I know I've spoken to Councillor Morris, who was one of the movers behind it, and he says it's worked very well. I think that's probably his comment on the top, isn't it? I don't know. Has anybody, I haven't seen, everybody seems to be quite happy. Yeah. The left turning to the Handarola turn is fairly tight for larger vehicles who cut the corner. A simple...
But they do that anyway, don't they? You can see all the mud on the
Yeah, well, that's what he's saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's a practical solution. I hope they actually look at it. Are you being asked to actually... Has anybody got any problems with what they've proposed to do? Because I think it's worked very well. It's that right-hand turn going towards Morrison is always...
You can see the thing.
be a problem anymore because the people getting up on the curb on the corner would be the ones that wanted to turn left because there was somebody there wanting to turn right. So they've got the whole lane now. So I think that issue should go.
And sent it out. They were the 3 emails we had back.
They're asking us to make a sort of response. So I think it's been a very successful experiment. We're happy for it to continue on a permanent basis. We note the comment about the time being tight for and there is evidence that that is absolutely right. So if they could consider making the turn a little more easy so we just doesn't get destroyed, that would be great. But other than that, I think it's been a very successful. So I'm proposing that.
Yes, I
So
can.
show of hands. Don't think we need to say anything more than that. It's something that's really worked. The most difficult, having to go down to the roundabout and then up, but it's rather than wait for hours on the road, which is what they had to do. Is there any other active consultations? We don't have any licensing.
We don't know.
No, that's good. Do we have any 5-day planning protocols we need to comment on?
No, we do not.
We're flying, yeah. Right, so we now come to the 4 planning applications, of which we have done the second one. So I think that you are is the first one is...
I am presenting the first one.
So if you'd like to take us through the first one.
Yes, so application 1, PA 24/096976 parking butts in St Columb Minor, demolition of bungalow and replacement with a house, and there's going to be a bit of stone wall being demolished to improve access to the house. So the first...
Sorry, I'm just going to open them up.
First one is the site plan or location
Just
plan.
opening them up, sorry.
All right, okay, that's
Sorry.
fine. When, okay, right, so there we are. So I presume we know where we are in relation to the church. Yeah, we had, we could have even had this before.
And specifically, it's not in the conservation area.
Yeah. And then so that's the current site plan. And then if we have a look at the proposed site plan, you can see that they're extending to the back, into the back garden, and then widening the small extension that they had. Let's get this on as well. So they've expanding that when they're making it into a house. They've widened what I call their L-shape extension, but they're also extending back that way. So can you just flick it back a minute, and then we can... So you can see that it's widening there, and it's just widening that. So it is increasing its footprint a little bit, but not at the front of the house. So
Pretty much on the same line as the...
yes, it's just going in. Yeah, we'll see that when we look at the houses in a minute. So if we have a look at the existing that's not the existing one. Oh yeah, the existing and proposed. So the existing is this, which, I mean, oh, it looks like Billy No Mates. sorry for the people dwelling there. It is, and that is the proposed, and the proposed is very in keeping with its neighbours. It's got an integral garage, but the neighbours have next door, and so they're just going to be widening this to give them access to off-road parking. Parking around those is quite hard. And they've got the solar panels on the roof, they've got the same bay windows and the slate roof, and, stone frontage. So it is very much more in keeping, poor English, I know, than the current dwelling, which is here. So I suspect in the past, there used to be a house there and it got demolished, and this is like an interwall bungalow.
Oh, or do you think it might be the other way round, that they were all bungalows and they've been developed?
No.
Or you think it's-
No, because these are Edwardian, they're older than the bungalow. So maybe it was a gap that there were pairs and then they, yeah. But I think it's quite in keeping. So if we have a look at the existing elevations, there it is, sort of like little basic bungalow. And it has basically on the east side, this is the east side, it had a door, and when we look at the proposed elevations, there will be a window there, but it's already got a viewing thing anyway.
So, sorry, is the east facing into the memory garden or whatever it's...
No, the east side, no, that's the north side.
Ah.
So the east side is facing into its neighbour. That's the only thing, that I was going to sort of point out. So if we have a look at the proposed elevation, so wrong thing. Right, there we go. So that's the window. So there used to be a door here. So now there's a window, but so I'll just say something else. But what I'm going to say is sort of like no objection. I'll say why it's no objection in a minute, as opposed to support, with the officer checking that there's no overlooking. I don't think there is. These are on the yeah, but I'm not sure if there are. Well, we've got images, haven't we, Louise, that we can show in a minute. But this side, the windows are small, they're high up. Yeah. The proposed block plan. I haven't put up about what was happening inside, but I mean it was just bedrooms. It's just a house, really. It has. Can you just show the photos? Because I think they are probably gable ends. These ones that Nick, yeah, they are, aren't they?
They've got the same sort of windows, haven't they? Just for light, isn't it?
Or bathroom, yeah.
Yeah, it was just for them.
So yes,
To
you're
check.
not looking in. You're not.
No.
You're not looking into an adjacent house. You're just. got
No,
a bit of
it's
light.
worth it. I just wanted the officer to check about that.
I can't see why that would be no objections to the support though. We have a policy of support.
Yeah, but the main problem is that it's the first time I've come across this in all planning application. South West Water have said that the runoff into the drains is not acceptable.
It might be worth noting that the current planning application is for 2 houses. So the current granted approval in 2023 was to put 2 houses on that space. They're changing it just to the 1. So they've currently got permission to have 2 in that space.
No, I hadn't.
And they're changing it to 1.
I hadn't realised that because there'd been no reference to that in this.
In June 2023, so it was a
So
no
they've already-
objection to amend the plans.
Okay, so they've already got a protection of terms, but there is still the South West Waters. So I'm saying no objection to conversion to a single dwelling, but they need to get that submission as to what they're going to do with roof runoff sorted for South West Waters.
Just a moment, Steve. My assumption is that South West Water are going to change their standard instruction, because that is just it. That's what they've been telling us, that the sewers can't take runoff, and therefore going to limit sewers to sewage. Steve.
I mean, I don't know why we're basing our decision on what other people might say. That's, for me, this is a single dwelling that's got permission to become 2 dwellings, reverting, sort of like, changing the application to a single dwelling. Although it's not an extension, it would kind of sit within to my mind, sit within our kind of the spirit of our policy to support, extensions and everything. And, no objection is when we're not satisfied that they're doing everything right. And I can't see any reason to not just support the application.
Sometimes you put in a subject to, but
Yeah.
have you got any subject to suggestions? Or?
Well, we can do subject to, but having the runoff and the South West Water, as I said, that's the first time that they've put in what they've suggested is not acceptable. So in terms of that, and that is a major thing for
our
my
policies, we've got no objection to it, have we?
No.
Which I think is what Steve said.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. I mean, it's for South West Water. We're not the correspondent with South West Water. We are making our own decision on our own policies.
So are you going to make a proposal?
I propose we support the application, subject to no overlooking from that window, which I think is going to be the case.
Yeah.
No effect on the amenity of
Yeah.
adjacent houses. which is
And I actually welcome the I know we'd normally object to the loss of a wall, but actually because of the extreme parking situations in Cullen Minor, that they're actually providing, it's certainly going to have it probably have a neutral effect on parking, but it might even have a positive effect on parking in the local area.
certainly have a positive effect on you. I'm happy to second that. So shall we have a show of hands for support? I understand you've got a few queries. What do you think, Francis?
I can see where Sarah's coming from, because I think we need people to build houses that are resilient, not just to themselves, but to their community, to prevent an overflow of water going into the current roads and things. And from what I can tell from South West Water, they feel, and they are one of our we listen to these public comments. We can choose whether we want to take them on board or not, but we do need to think about them. And that if we had every household making changes to their property that ignore water kind of plan and resilience, then we would just have water flooding the streets. We do have water that flooding the streets, possibly because of South West Water's lack of investment and more bothering to look at their shareholders as opposed to their bill payers. But anyway. Don't think that comment was captured, was it? I won't repeat it.
Being rude about South West Water.
I wasn't. I was making a political statement about South West Water. It's not rude. It's a fact. But I think we should take their comments on board, because I do think that developers, whether they are individual dwelling developers or a big, international building company developer, needs to have water resilience as a key factor, especially in a small town. So I would like to support if we say that they will comply or subject to satisfying something to do with South West Water. I don't know what the words are. I will happily support it as long as we can add that clause to that subject to.
Are you happy with that, subject to them?
Yeah, I mean, I know they're putting a small extension out the back, but the surface area is mostly, it's an increase of about 30% on what's there at the moment. So the runoff is the same, the plot doesn't get suddenly bigger because they're building a house on it. I haven't quite finished. The plot doesn't get bigger because they're suddenly building a house on it, and they've got space out the back. If they're going into Soakaway or anything like that from the runoff, or it's South West Water put a block comment on everything, and if everybody says we're listening to the previous comment, you end up with a domino effect of the last commenter objecting because they've had a cascade of comments all the way down, rather than just making their own decision on their own policies.
No, I think it's totally relevant whether we go no objection or support. You obviously feel quite strongly about it. I'm happy to go for support, subject to everything else being equal. Can you live with that, Sarah? Yeah. Show of hands for support on that basis. Thank you. Right. So the next one we have is the school one, and we have a letter in from Lisa Solly, who normally attends, but obviously is busy today.
Oh, I'm doing this one.
Are you you're doing it, are you? Excellent. There you go then, we've got a letter.
Application 3, PA25/00130. This is Newquay Tretheris School with the proposed change of caretaker bungalow to educational space. So if we start off, I'll give you a couple of moments to lead them up. If you've read Lisa's letter, yeah.
No, they call them bungalows, don't they? The bungalow roof.
Okay, so if we can just start off with Street View, because I think most people will know, are going to be familiar with where it is. There it is, look. Bless it.
I assume that the caretaker, whoever it was, moved out when they started
Yeah.
building the school.
So yeah, so this is the bungalow that we. So it's pebble dash and it's got a chimney, and you can note the planting around it. So then, if we look at the site plan, there it is at the front of the school. It's got a path going up, so it's the access in at the side here, and there's, I think, access at the back here. And then the proposed site floor plan. So it's the same with access at the side. The shrubbery is still there. I mean, it's not made clear. I'm presuming they're not knocking it down and replacing it. It's not actually stated anywhere.
No, I think it's literally they're just going for the
Yeah,
change of use.
but
At
they-
this stage, they are just going for change of use. They may do some restructuring, but that's not part of this application,
Yeah,
I
like it
believe.
says it will consist of basic refurbishment of the fabric of the building.
Yeah.
It's not.
So, but the proposed elevations, you'll see that the chimney's gone, and they've done different facing on it. So whether they are keeping the pebble dash and are removing the chimney, I don't know. So I think, well, they could be just cladding it the outside in a different way. The access and the windows are changing as well. So if we can flip back to the elevations that there were before. So you just see that, there's sort of the windows and the doors are changing. So they're probably making them double glazed and updating them and putting a ramp in and that sort of thing. It's not huge, there's not massive change. It says it's got disabled access. So I'm quite happy to support this if they could put some solar panels on and like the G2 stuff, bird boxes and things. And it would be rather good if they could get the runoff from the roof and put that into a soakaway in the land adjacent to it rather than it just going automatically down the drain. So it just needs a divergent off the downpipe.
So
But
just take any advantage for saving water and...
yeah, just to go into a
You
soakaway.
seconding that, Steve?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that, and there's no change to the primary fabric of the building, so if they can intercept that water, that would be brilliant. I know one of the reasons they get rid of caretakers' houses now because there's a huge child protection issue with having a permanent residence on a school site, because you have the right to peaceful enjoyment of your own home, which means you can let anybody in there. And so, so caretakers' cottages are great idea. I can see why the chimney's going, because they're probably not going to have any open fires, so, that's, probably a good child safety issue. And yeah, I know the fact that they're going to put some soft traditional fencing in and a more secure. A lot of people will walk past that and not even realise the bungalow's still there, to be honest. And the fact they're reusing the asset with the original fabric and putting some more gaps in, it's lovely. It's, the whole area is finally, the school's nearly finished, the primary school's nearly finished, so yeah, happy to second that.
I mean, inside there's going to be disabled toilets and things, so it's fine.
Francis,
Yeah.
Show of hands for support. I don't even think we've got any subject to if they could take any advantage of getting alternative energy and water and what have you.
I mean, the reference at school.
So the next one is number 4, which is 28 Lusty Glaze Road. If you care to put up the file, and we'll have a look start with number 1. I numbered everything, show the location of the block plan. Right, those of you with a good memory, or even those of you with a very poor memory here, because we have had 4 applications in the last 2 years. We started off in 22, and then they changed it in 23, and then they changed the timber cladding instead of something much darker. We didn't like that. But eventually we agreed to disagree, and then again in 2024, in April, they changed the windows. So I've swiped an artist impression from one of the 24, if you could say do number 2. This is what the artist thinks it's going to look like. And you can see it's between 27 and 29, which is, well, we'll see this. 29 is actually a sort of drive that goes down in front of the land. So that's the wall that's the end of their property, and then that's 27. So if we could then look at number 3, which is what it actually looks like today, you can see why we didn't particularly care for the colour. And if we look at number 4, it's the same thing from a slightly bit of angle. There's the drive going round, and you can see that they're actually building an embankment. Sorry?
Whereabouts is this on Lusty Glaze?
Oh yeah, right. Can we go back to number 1? Lusty Glaze Road, the other end of Lusty Glaze Road. If we go back to number 1, please.
I don't know what Jen Rapp say the other end.
The Porth end.
It's the Porth end. It's where it splits in the middle. Right, it's really quite interesting, I suppose, because what's actually happened to it is over to the other side, to the east, you've got St Owen, and it's all that sort of those houses that are right up a hill. What I have never realised until I did this one is that the hill keeps on going. So 28, which is right at the end of, and 29 is that one down the front of it, but 28 is the hill keeps on going. Yeah. And the other end of is Lusty Glaze, so it's it's nowhere near Lusty Glaze Beach, if that's what's confusing. No. Sorry about that. So if we could then go across to, I was just talking about number 4, and just saying picture number 4, entry number 4. Yes, I'm just saying you can see they're building some sort of embankment there, and then at number 5, this is the view from the footpath that runs along the hedge, and as you can see, it's sort of, because it is very steep there, it more or less, and that is number 29 that we can see there. The artist's impression, I think, was taken from some sort of thing that was hovering above the beach somewhere. You could probably see it a bit clearer from the beach. Right, so if we then have number 6, which is the proposed site plan, right, oh, and I've cheated here because I think this one, this is the 24 site plan, but I think it shows better the context. So you can see 27's up the side, the drive is coming round, and then you go down to, if you just scroll up again, Louise, then you can see 29 there, and St Ewan and Hill House. So that's just showing, and that little sort of grey circle is where they wanted to put a fire pit, but they hadn't actually done it. And this is all about the fire pit and getting in a couple of cylinders. I'm not sure why they actually needed planning permission for this, but since they've asked for it, we won't turn them down. So if we look at number 8, please, which is just show.
It's got a permanent footing, it's within a certain distance of the boundary, isn't it? So it might be.
So the next one is what they're saying. So that is, have I got the right one there? It's going to, is it coming? This is, no, so the next one. Right, so this is the actual site plan. So you can see they've got a fire pit, that circular thing is the fire pit, and then they've got steps going down the squad, and then they've got steps. Where's the magic thing? How's it work?
Oh, lovely.
And then you press the...
Press that.
It's quite good. If you go down to Google from Lusty Glaze Road, you get the old image.
So the beach is here, basically. And that's there is the sauna and the fire pit, and then there's the house. It's very luxurious. Right, that was right. If we could do number 8 now. I did a quick comparison. Now this is quite fun. Can you blow this up a bit? Because effectively, over there is the last change where they made the window bigger, and then when you go over here. The window doesn't look like, they seem to have got a bit confused between the, and I don't know, it's a comment we will make, is they've slightly changed the shapes of the windows. So if you look here, that's got 3 windows, and that's only got 2. Otherwise, it's very, very, very similar. And that's the south elevation. If we look at the next one, this is the east-west. Nope, it's the next, sorry, that was the next photo. It's...
The next one.
it should be 12. No, sorry, it shouldn't, Dad, but ignore me. Is it not?
Okay, 12?
No, it's not 12. It's a 10. Right, this is this, and there is a very clear difference in the fact on that top one where the thing that is passed has got, oh, what is it doing up there? Come back.
It keeps blocking it with your laptop. You're like this.
Oh, I see, technical stuff. This one that is approved has got 2 windows in the roof, and this is the proposed one, and it hasn't got windows in the roof. Now, whether they've got confused or whatever, I would, and then there is a real a little difference here, which is the terrace. Yeah, so it's probably, I think, worth mentioning. We're saying we note a few minor differences in the windows that we don't think are material, because they've changed the plans slightly, or they've used the wrong plans. No, I don't know. It may be because of the windows. They haven't actually given a list of what's changed. It may be because of the windows that they need planning permission, because you do need planning permission when you do windows. Anyway, the changes from the outside are minimal, apart from here where it's slightly changed. Right, so if we look now at number 11, which is the proposed ground floor, this is a ground floor and a lower ground floor. So this is the ground floor, and there is the terrace.
Keep shining it on your laptop.
I know, I appreciate that. So it's very luxurious. It's got things like snugs and all sorts of, and so,
doors and windows.
yeah, I mean, and then if you look at the one, but the reason I'm showing this is because I don't actually understand what they're doing. Then we have the lower ground floor, which is the next one.
Was that lower ground there? Or was that
No,
ground?
this is lower ground floor. And it says outside. It's this bit we want to look at. It says outdoor gym here, which is quite a surprise. So then, if you look at the terrace elevator, and this is where I didn't understand what they were doing. The next one is the terrace, the plan for the terrace elevation. Now, I'm assuming that this is on the lower ground floor. It's got a shower and it's got some sort of door, and I think up there is the terrace with the glass window. So I think again, I wouldn't have thought they would have needed planning permission here, but they've put the plans in, so there you go.
Just want to fireproof themselves.
Yeah. So that's a shower. That's the door to a storeroom. Right, then they start getting, so if we go to number 13, which is the visualization of the sauna. Now, what is lovely about that isn't a statue. That's meant to be a bloke.
There's a ghost coming down the stairs.
Yes, and as you may notice that they've so miraculously they're in the children. Miraculously, they appear to have suddenly appeared in the countryside with absolutely no houses on either side. But that is the entrance to the sauna. The next one has another ghost. You look at the next visualization. So there's your ghost again. And if you look really, really carefully, you can see that is the outline of the house next door. Don't forget about the ghost. You can just about see there that there is a house there. And what it's basically telling you is that building won't be able to see because it's facing away from them.
I really like that. And if that's a sauna, the fact they built it into the ground, you've got soil, which is just about the best you can have.
So that's it really. They're obviously building something that's quite countrified. If they're building this real escarpment. Yes. I wasn't going to show any more.
I've not saying on any of the previous applications. I really like the fact that they've matched the roof pitch to more mirror the things around them. It's not quite a Dutch peak thing, but that uneven pitch on the roof, which mirrors now what's along the rest of the street. I think the fact that if we're talking about overlooking, it's only the neighbours, because unless you're very tall, being overlooked on a cliff is quite hard. It was quite a large kind of like 3-aspect bungalow anyway, and I think they've just made the most out of it. It very much mirrors those kind of like the house up on Lustig, further up, the Lustig Lake, the beach end of the road now. So it's kind of becoming a new vernacular for that end of the road, which is quite nice, because you've got the bungalow vernacular going all the way down, you know, previous to that. So I quite like that. These applications, I can't see anything wrong with that. I think the fact they've built a sauna into the ground, that's massively good for heat retention anyway. They've taken account probably from their own privacy, but also that has a side benefit of protecting the neighbours from, you know, if you come pouring out the sauna with everything akimbo and, you know, need to plunge into something cold, you're doing it in openness but privacy, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think it's a nice application. Unless I propose we support that, unless there's any historic reason why we've gone no objection before or anything. Then
I mean, I like the way that they built this sort of fake sort of landscaping.
Fake person.
Most of the
Yeah.
applications we see on the coast, they try and wipe away the embankment. These guys are making an embankment. So I've got no problem. I'll happily second that. I think that's fine. So show of hands for support. No real comments. I mean, it's nothing to do with the environment. I don't think we can. They've already got permission to build and all the rest of it. So I don't think there's anything else we've got to say about that one.
Have they already got permission for the fire pit?
I'm not sure they need permission for the fire pit. If we can go back to number 7.
I would.
Number
Yeah,
I meant to comment on the fire pit earlier. If I could just
There we
add
go.
clear that. Yeah, it's
barbecue.
just
We have one
it's
in our
barbecue
garden,
as long as there's a reasonable restriction from that, because obviously it's, you know, if as part of the planning application, the local fire service and coast guard are made aware there's a fire pit there, because you are talking about potentially a light on a headland. That's about it. But it's in a built-up area, so it's less likely to cause a
Bit of a smell, perhaps, but I mean, again, I don't think having a barbecue in the garden. I mean, fire pits are very. Fire pit is a very posh word for a barbecue. So it's.
Yeah, you can sit around them as well on the late summer evenings, and you know.
Again, I don't think. I think you might include it, as long as none of this affects the amenity of. It affects the amenity of the neighbouring houses. We don't think it does, but it's always worth putting that in. Because it doesn't affect the amenity of the neighbouring houses. As I say, I'm surprised it needed planning permission for that. I mean, it's just garden structure. They might have had a condition. They did have a condition that they shouldn't put any more windows on this bit. There was a condition because they were a bit worried. Yeah, that would be over. So they have windows that are obscure, and their condition was they shouldn't put anything in, which they haven't. But I can't see anybody worrying about that. So I mean, it's really quite a nice idea. So so have we actually voted? I think we voted on that. Right. So that is the last of the applications. We tell Duncan how efficient we are.
You go on more holidays.
I think we did most of it. So I wasn't going to do anything more on because we haven't spent anything on the financial statement. We did the reports from the working party last week. We had to delay the meeting because of the snow. We did all the admin stuff there, so I don't see any point going ahead of that. There is some training on the new on the response from Cornwall Council to the new NPPF and the horrifying number of houses that are going to be, which means that basically it's destroying the local plan, and consequently it's destroying our neighbourhood plan as well. But we won't be able to do anything about that until the new local plan. We can work in parallel, but if we are foolish enough to try and go in ahead of them, then as we discovered, generalise. Exactly. No, it's all done on the date of approval. So we've had a couple of applications through recently which really shouldn't have got through because they're against our policies. And they said, oh, well, this thing that's adopted after you is written 2 years before ours. Generalisation overrides our plan. So whatever we do, we'll have to wait for the local plan. So that they're saying they can do them in 18 months. I shall believe that when I see it. I noticed Andrew George today was saying it was going to take 4 years. It was Dick. It was Dick Cole saying it was going to take 4 years. I think Dick's probably more right than the government, but there we are. So is there any other correspondence? No. Right. So, I have no items for informational discussion. So, I'm proposing, unless anybody wants to say anything?
Just the next meeting
So we
is
can have fun.
Sorry,
next meeting's on a Tuesday, the 4th.
Oh, yes, that's worth noting, yes,
Yeah.
because it's, in theory, there's going to be a town council meeting finally on the 5th. But yes, so it's a Tuesday meeting. If everybody could sort out their diaries, because we are really close to the bone but we are succeeding where the other committees aren't, so we are quite chuffed. We wish to keep our excellent record going. So,
Doesn't sit well.
well, what else have you got to do? It's good fun, I mean, and it do make a difference. So thank you very much. Steve, particularly, thank you for coming in. Thank you for stepping in, Louise. Thank you for running all the kit, and you can